Welcome to my cake kitchen. I'm Gladys, and over here I make simple, informative tutorials to help you navigate cake decorating easily. And today we are back with baking class, where today we are answering one baking question, which is what happens if you overcream your sugar and butter? That's the simple question we're answering, and we're going to undertake a bake session. We're going to experiment with what it looks like when you overcream your butter, and that is essentially to answer the critical baking question, because when you're a baker you are told the small little things you have to do to get better results, which includes making sure your ingredients are of room temperature. If they're not, you keep them warm a little bit, bring them up to the right consistency, cream your butter and sugar right, and all the little things that are optimized for your very best results. So in baking class, the intention of breaking some baking rules. In baking class, we break some baking rules. And one of them we did last time was what really happens when we overmix our cake batter. And the emphasis is on butter, B-A-T-T-E-R. Except today, we are creaming our solid fat and sugar. And we are going to overcream it just so that we can observe and answer the question for ourselves, whether that is something we should be doing or something we shouldn't be doing. And if we should be doing or not doing, be doing that, why? What results do we sort of put ourselves forward to when we break our baking rules? So if you see me for the first time, I'm Gladys. I'm a baker cake artist, and on this channel I make small baking tutorials which are sometimes very long-winded but informative, just to help you navigate the baking process and also cake decorating processes. So anything all about cakes, you're welcome, okay? So if you're watching this on replay, what are we doing? I'm emphasizing that because when the chat gets busy, we're just going to go off to the left and keep catching up about stuff. But we are simply breaking some baking rules, overmixing, overcreaming, or overmixing our butter, just so that we can, butter and sugar, just so that we can see what the result is. I'll be explaining why that is essentially and what that looks like, just in case you're not a baker and you are just coming into baking. Stay with me. There are people in the chat, so let me just say hello to everybody, and I'll be back talking some more about overmixing and overcreaming our solid fat and sugar over here. Now we have a quick acknowledgement to the moderators of the chat. We have Lollipop, Tharpeta, and Prawn Cocktail. Okay, these are our moderators. You can see there is a blue line running when they are in the chat. We ask that if you're just joining us or you're with us or have been for a little while, we have a few simple rules in the class over here to make sure that we are respectful. Whilst we're essentially a baking focused channel, we don't just talk baking, we connect with each other, we interact with each other. We hope to enhance the quality of your experience whilst in the group, and we hope that you remain respectful. We're all different human beings, we're all different people, and bordered by this screen, I'm literally stood in my UK-based home kitchen, but I know there are people watching me from different parts of the world. It would be obtuse to think we're all the same, but in our differences, there is value. So please, in the chat, be respectful of each other, but keep it going, keep it conversational, and try to engage with each other. You'll get to know each of the people more, and I hope you have a great experience. There's Tharpeta, good morning over there. There's Cocktail, she's back, good afternoon. And Lollipop. You know what, Lollipop, I had you sitting large in my head today. You know why? Because I thought I need to come at 1 just so that Lollipop has time to kind of catch up before she goes for the school run. Last week, I was trying to reset my routine. So fingers crossed. I think I've done a little better than I thought. Remember, the commitment of the 3-day-a-week live was a struggle for me, right? But once I stuck with it, we went through all, I think, all February, and we've gone through March, nearly mid-March, and we're still going. So as we are building momentum through the consistency of the lives, hopefully there are more sessions for you to enjoy, right? So today I am just trying to get this baking class. There's a little thing in my mind right now that I'm thinking about. 2 things. We were supposed to be making Tharpeta's teacup, the teacup. I have a spare cake here. It's a teacup. It's sitting right here. And I'm thinking, should we finish the baking class, come back and start the teacup, or let's finish the baking class today and then start with the teacup tomorrow? I don't know. Keep me informed in the chat. But whilst we're at it, let's get into the subject of today's baking class. I say that to say, Tabitha, your teacup will be done. It's a scheduling issue. We might probably run from Tuesday through Friday, which makes the lives a 4-day session this week. Or there is a time in the week where I can make 2 lives a day. I am not so sure. I just want to make sure they're well structured so that you can get the best value out of them. So whatever you think, let me know. There is cake over here, right? So don't worry, Tabitha, I've got you covered. I'm going to keep to my promise. And if you don't know what we're talking about, we do sometimes undertake decorating tutorials. So we have scrap cakes that we have to recycle. And part of the decorating tutorials have seen me make this, we call it plantain, yeah? And then there is a flower pot cake, and then there is a burger cake. I have to discard of this cake, but I'm holding on to them. Lord help me. Okay, my hoarding habit. But that is beside the point. Let's just leave that over here and get in the chat. Okay, Prom Cocktail says she tried the flat cupcakes. They tasted amazing without decoration, but some of them didn't cook through properly. So I think it's my toaster. Right, let me see. Am I missing something? Okay, so there's greetings over there. Lollipop. Yeah, see? Lollipop, you and I are thinking, like, I really did think about you today, you know, because I'm like, if I leave the lives too late, it kind of ends up like affecting the course of my day. So I'm hoping I can kind of just stick to the 1 p.m. It's good time because Tabitha will still be up. My American audience will just about be starting their mornings before work time. So it's about 5 a.m. ish. Everybody's trying to get up, and they have this random person over here over the internet just screaming non-stop over there. I don't know what that means, but that is just by the way, right? And yeah, that's where we are. So Lollipop, I am having a good day. Well, good day spending it with you guys. Tabitha, I can put, Tabitha is just wielding her power over here. She wants to put someone on time out. Tabitha, be kind. Don't be a pharaoh. Okay? Don't be a pharaoh. Just be a kind ruler to your people. Okay? You've been up all night. Oh, Tabitha, so sorry. I hope you can have some rest. Yeah, you did say today is a work day, so it's going to be a long one, isn't it? Just make sure you don't end up poorly at work, Tabitha. Okay? Right. Chantilly. I think since the big producer told us the word is Chantilly. Chantilly, he ruined your name for me. Okay, darling, we're going to call you Chantilly, darling. Good morning. How is New York and how are you? Great to have you back. Okay, Chantilly. Look, people, be kind. Right. So, baking, I said, breaking baking rules and answering the question of what happens when you over mix or over cream your solid fat here and sugar. Now, let's go down to the simple basics. When I talk the science of baking, which I love, I talk about it from a complete amateur point of view. That is simply because the knowledge I have gained and the experience I have gained from what I know happens is based on the experience of observing this, something I have done over the last 10 years. I am no scientist at all. So trying to communicate something that I observe doing all the time in a very scientific form can be really difficult without probably copying and pasting ChatGPT for you. So I'm going to try and break this very simply for you to understand why creaming is important. Now, we say creaming because it's a baking folk subject term, okay? It's a baking subject related term, creaming. But you can say mixing. Creaming sort of focuses the attention on what exactly it is, whereas mixing can be different sorts of things. I could be whisking this and it could equally be mixing. So the term creaming in baking is specific to a method that is fundamentally used to create a foundation from which air pockets are formed during the cake making process. Okay, that is the batter making process or cake making process, whichever whichever suits your fancy. So essentially, creaming is a baking related term, but creaming is a method of deriving cake batter, but it's the foundation of creating air pockets by mixing sugar into batter or any solid fat. We're talking margarine or what do you call it? Crisco. There's a name for that. It's just escaped me. So when I say solid fat, it's an X. Q in butter or margarine or any other fat that is presented as a solid form, because solid fats are not the only fats that you use in baking. You can also use oil, but that's a completely different subject. So when I say solid fat, in this context, I am referring to butter or margarine. Let's keep it simple. So in creaming butter and sugar together, what you're essentially doing is creating air bubbles. The sugar crystals, which are rather a little fine, have very small, sharp bits that you may not be able to see. But when I pour the sugar with this solid fat, over here I'm using margarine today, into the mixer, and I use the creaming beater to agitate the sugar and butter together, which thereby mixes it, creaming it in the process. What I am trying to do is that I am trying to build a network or a volume of air pockets. Now, those air pockets will help trap in the gases from the chemical reaction that occurs when the bake goes in the oven. Baking is a very technical chemical process, but like I told you, I am no scientist. So essentially, when you start baking, you come to the knowledge of things you can do right, and much of it will be make sure your ingredients are of room temperature. There's a good reason for that. You are asked not to overcream your butter or not overmix your batter, B-A-T-T-E-R, what we did. Now, the intention for not over creaming your batter is set in very small plain words that says mix or cream until light and fluffy. If you're a baker and you've heard mix until light and fluffy, let me see you in the chat. Have you ever heard or read mix until light and fluffy? And what does that mean to you? I want to hear it. Carpenter, here's a question. People in the class, hear me. If you're watching me on replay, you could join the conversation by leaving comments. And if you have questions, please leave them in the comments section as well. So here's a question. If you're a baker, I am sure you have come across the word mix until light and fluffy. The two words light and fluffy. What does that mean to you? Okay. Now, whilst prawn cocktail. You haven't heard light and fluffy. That's interesting. Okay, so you're the person I am going to be speaking to right now. Okay, bear with me. Just get okay. Gladys, be careful. We're not, people. Okay, let's stick with the subject. I wanted to show you my new cup. Okay, and it says that. Okay, in a good way. This is just literally solidifying the fact that I love tea, okay? It is solid, it is heavy, it is nice. Now, none of you should cause me to break my cup. And if you do, you might just have to replace it. And prawn cocktail. I was looking at the P.O. box thing. Honey, that is so expensive. YouTube doesn't pay me just enough yet. But you know what? Hanging tight. We might get there in the future. Whatever presents you have and want to send via post, you just keep piling them because there will come a time. Okay, honey? Now, we are asking, Where's the mug from? It's a Tesco mug, okay? I picked it up from Tesco. I went to my Tesco, a local Tesco. It's a very solid mug, like the other one. Remember, the other one fell from a height and only the handle broke. And it's still solid. And some days I end up hugging the cup just to drink my tea without a handle. But that's just a random detour here. Let's focus on... let's focus on what we're doing over here. So Corkitail says she has not heard light and fluffy before. Okay, so Corkitail, let's break this down. I think we need a Discord, don't we? Okay, you know what? Prawn Cocktail, I will catch you over there in the corner over there. Okay, we'll catch up. You know what? Cocktail, go into, if on my homepage, the YouTube home, there's a link in my about. It will take you to the website. Leave me an email, okay? That is just by the way. Little detour over there. Yeah? Yeah. So let's, because I'm a little bit stretched in terms of my time, but a little bit of help and support won't go amiss. So, Corkitail, leave me an email, okay? Let's get back to the subject here. So, Corkitail, so I'm gonna... Okay, Corkitail, she's my moderator over here, but Corkitail is the sort of avatar of baker I am talking to. Because if you're an experienced baker, what we are talking here won't really matter to you because you would have done it 1,001 times and this wouldn't matter at all to you. But Corkitail is a fairly new baker. She has a lot of pets over there. She's the pet expert, but not the baker, if you like. So if Corkitail lands on a recipe, the recipe will call for, say, if the recipe is supposed to be derived via the creaming method, because that's one aspect of the process. There are different ways you can derive cake batter, but we're sticking with the creamy method. And the creamy method is the method used for making your Victoria sponge cakes or sometimes your pound cakes. So there is a particular result you get from the creaming method. And sometimes creaming is what you also use not just for cakes, but also for, say, cookies. So when you're making cookies, when you mix the sugar and butter together before you add your dry ingredients to create a very nice chewy cookie, that's also creamy method. So creaming is not just limited to cakes, but in this context we're sticking with cakes. So if you chanced onto a recipe that calls for mixing the sugar into the butter first, it's by nature using the creamy method, but then it will say mix until light and fluffy. And I've always said sometimes the sentences or tips you're giving like that are an oversimplified way of teaching, because you think I have a load of yellow butter margarine here. If I keep using butter or margarine, it's interchangeable. One is not for the other though. Let's be clear about that. But because I keep slipping back and forth into the use of butter, the content I have here is specifically margarine, but bear with me if I keep going back to butter, okay? That said, this is a yellow looking substance here. That's margarine. Oh, for good reason we have some butter here. Now, whilst butter is not the same as margarine, on observation, they have the same physical appearance, if you like, especially in terms of color. So if I'm told to just mix something until light and fluffy, what do you think that looks like? If you've never baked before, that can be a challenge, because what's your benchmark for what light and fluffy is likely to look like? In simplistic terms, light and fluffy is just when this yellow looking substance here pales out slightly to an off-white. So the yellow would pale out just slightly, but it still holds a tinge of yellow. It's not completely white, and the volume slightly increases, but it's still solid. I tend to use something simply called the spatula test, where even after creaming the butter and sugar together, I stir that with a I get a little bit on the spatula. I shake it a little bit 3 times. If it slides slowly off the spatula, it means it's still got form, and that is about what light and fluffy looks like to me. Light and fluffy, whilst it is meant to inform, it is still contextual, because depending on what equipment you're using, if I'm using a mixer which is optimized for excess speed, if I choose to, it means light and fluffy can be derived rather quickly. This is also informed by the amount of time you can cream your butter and sugar together. So light and fluffy can be a little bit if you don't know what you are doing. So a good thing is to almost look at what you're observing. And in light and fluffy also means making sure there is just about enough or the right amount of air pockets that are held. Because if you exceed the intended light and fluffy, you get into an area where your structure here with the sugar is likely to collapse. By so doing, you add from the off-white looking consistency and color to almost white, which has fallen and sometimes may closely look like curdled milk. That's the extreme version, but most likely if it's looking super white and it's very, very light, you have almost overcreamed that. Now, why is overcreaming not advisable in baking? Simply, overcreaming creates structural problems for your cake, because if you overcream, you will almost beat out the air that you are supposed to trap, that is supposed to help your sponge structure, because the air that are formed, the air pockets that are formed helps traps the gases through the chemical reaction that is formed when your cake then goes into the oven. So if you have a problem with the structural network, and I'm oversimplifying the science here, you may end up with a cake that is very dense, and that's an extreme, but sometimes you can also have some very streaky bits in your cake, and you could also have a cake that is super crumbly and very light. Very nice tasting. Does it affect the taste? No, unless you get to the extreme version where your results may just work opposite to what you are looking for. So generally, I say all of that to say, generally when you hear light and fluffy, depending on all things working for you, right? Because light and fluffy is also dependent on what weather conditions. I mean, the amount of time I've been talking to you right now, and if I was in an African 40-degree heat over there, this butter here would have probably melted, and that in itself would create more crisis for me. But I'm in England. It looks warm, but it is cold. I suspect we are somewhere around a 19 to an 18 to 21 degree C, somewhere in between today. So that barely has an effect here. And the 18 to 21 degree is technically sometimes room temperature. So I have all things working in my favor right now. But if we were in a hot, sunny place, I wouldn't have the luxury of even like talking this much over this, because my solid fat will probably be melted into a gunky liquid running fat. That said, if you overcream your mixture, you are going to have some technically structured or technically problematic cakes, okay? The structure is not going to be great, but outside of the structure, it is likely to look gummy. It doesn't look great, but I'm not going to be telling you, okay? I'm going to be trying it, and then we'll see if that is exactly true for what it is worth. So essentially, I say that to say, if you're new to baking, join us here, because we take all the baking, we take all the technical aspects of baking, we put it into practice, and then we inform you so that when you go home, you can undertake your baking knowing that, oh, okay, I think I have a better understanding, because baking is a science, even though I'm not a science teacher. That aside, today I'm using margarine. Margarine is not the same as butter, but for the purposes of this experiment, you could swap one for the other and it would still work in terms of what we are testing for. But I've opted for margarine today. Over here, I have caster sugar, and I have myself some buttermilk. We have the regular self-raising flour, and we have some eggs that are right behind me over here. a good tip is that if your eggs are sat and you're not sure if they're at room temperature because it's cold, eggs can be a little bit cold when you crack them, even when you've left them on a countertop. So a good tip is to drop them in warm water 10 minutes before use, and they are good to go. As a baseline, the recipe I'm using here is a recipe that I have tried time and again on my channel. I have sort of taken it apart, adapted it. So we have a base, which is, the recipe is a solid recipe. So today, whilst I have actually done this slightly before and re-engineered my recipe for a different set of results, for this specific focus on trying to break the rule, which is over creaming our margarine and sugar, this is the first time I'm actually doing that. So we are going to find the same result for the very first time, because actually our previous videos, lives, which is ones that we did sometime last week, we overmixed our cake batter. You know, when flour goes into your batter, you are advised not to overmix it because you develop the gluten and the cake gets tough. I was actually surprised by some of the results, and we discussed that in full details here. So go back and check those for yourself and see what you find in those videos. That said, there's a lot of chatter happening in there that I am missing out on. Is anyone asking me a question? Okay, let's just see what's happening here. Right, Lollipop. So look, I have kind of just talked myself into oblivion over here. Lollipop said so many times she's had light and fluffy, not dense like butter, I suppose. Right. Okay, I will. There's okay, we have a new person. There's Glenn. Glenn, hello. Is Glenn still here? I can see look, there's a lot of chatter happening, and I have hardly been a part of this chatter, but you know what, it's great. As long as you guys are having so much fun, I am happy for you. Okay, Tapita says, in the kitchen we are mad scientists, but we don't tell anybody. Of course we do, you know. Cocktail hasn't heard light and fluffy, and Lollipop has said she's had light and fluffy but not dense like butter. Yeah, Prawn Cocktail is saying, yeah, Tesco's do, we're back to talking me and my mug again. Yeah, they do really some lovely mugs, and they have some good tea sets. I love a good tea set. Even the mini tea sets for just you at home, like the teapot, and yeah. So Tesco's really, I like dainty quirky stuff like that, and Tesco really do them. So yeah. Yeah, Tabitha, I was thinking about you on St. Patrick's Day. We thought about is it the pot or the St. Patrick? You know how I found out about St. Patrick's Day, which was yesterday. Was it yesterday? Right? I saw it in the news. I'm like, oh, the day is over. We can't have a do-over, can't we? Don't you worry. We'll be better prepared next time. But for my Irish people, I hope you had a great time yesterday. Oh, hi, Glenn. Hi. Well, Glenn is still here. Glenn, if you haven't noticed, I've left you to the company of my very good moderators to keep you company, okay? But great to have you. Where are you joining us from? Are you in the UK? I know people from all over the world do watch us and engage with us. Lovely to have you. Do you bake? And yeah, tell us where you're joining us from. And I hope you're being looked after in the chat and you feel connected over here. Yeah, Laura. Anyway, let's get to what we are doing today. Today, I am actually, for the quantity we have here, I am going to be using the stand mixer. And by the way, talking about the over mixing, timing is important, because when I've derived this batter, normally I will give it a 4 to 6 minute mark, and I zero in on the visual cues that you look at, for which I have just explained. But I'm going to give this a solid 10 minutes running at the medium. I could either go high speed for the 10 minutes, or we're looking to break the thing over, shall we? Okay, let's get the mixer and then measure the speed and see how that goes, because we really want to see what the result will be like. But before we get into it, let me just preheat my oven. Today I have the oven thermometer in, which is going to be my guide to getting this. I have two 6-inch pans, okay? And let's get in here with, oh God. Yeah, Laura hasn't been here for a little while, a couple of weeks now. I think we're in our second week since it's hard, you know, when people come and you don't hear from them again. There's no way of even checking on them. The person who's been on my mind lately is Vicky Kali. I know she's got a poorly child, and I just want to say, oh, hi, how are you keeping? And yeah, I think I'll try and find her in the comment section and leave her a message. But if anyone, keep an eye for Vicky Kali in the chat if she does show up. I know Lady Lately was here recently too. And right, so when we talk over creaming, like I said earlier, equipments matter, because the speed at which maybe a hand mixer might over cream is way different to a mixer like this one. Because for the quantity that I am using, if I use the hand mixer, I'll probably need a solid 15 to 20 minutes. But even so, depending on the volume, we may not be able to work out the butter and margarine. So what I am going to do is, oh, hi there, we have our friend from Russia. You know what, my Russian friends, welcome. Unfortunately, I don't read Russian, so I can't even pronounce your name. I can't. But yeah, greetings and welcome to the chat. So normally you are required to have your solid fat at room temperature, if you like. And room temperature is, it's soft when you stick your finger in. Those of you who don't like cooks working with their hands, I am sorry. We work with our hands here. Clean hands, of course. So you're supposed to make sure that it's, when you dip a finger in, you can stick it out and there is a dent and it can still keep shape. That is what we're looking for. So into the stand mixer bowl is going to go the margarine. If you've been on this channel, you will notice that most of the time I actually want to melt this a little bit more to break the solid fat up a little bit. But I'm not going to do that today because we're trying to measure something. And then over here there is sugar, and then I'm going to add my vanilla. Oh, okay, Glenn, welcome. So Glenn is joining us from the USA. He's a baker and he's also worked in bakeries. Oh, so tell us some of the interesting experiences. What do you like to bake, first of all? Right, so to those of you who are just joining us, when this mixer goes off, starts working, I'm probably not going to be able to talk over it. So there will be a lot of ASMR because of the mixer. But trust me, if it's necessary, I will stop and I'll talk to you, because it does really get a little bit noisy. And also because we're trying to over cream this. Normally, the medium high speed, you're looking at speed 3 to 4 on this mixer. And then it goes for maybe 4 to 6 minutes solid. But I'm going to turn this on high, taking it from slow to high, and it's going to go for a solid 10 minutes. Why is that? Because what we are trying to do is we are trying to overmix it. The overmixing means that we will take it from the yellow fat to a very white, pale looking consistency. Now I'll talk you through the phases of what light and fluffy looks like and then getting past the light and fluffy phase. Okay, the light and fluffy, bear in mind, is just about right, where you trap the right amount of air pockets, where it will support a good structure for your cake. It is firm, you have a nice textured crumb, and you have a good looking cake, if you like, because the structure of a cake is important, especially when you're layering the cake. But in this case, we are trying to kind of break that rule and exceed that, and see what the structure of the cake will evidently look like when we are done. Okay, but I'll take you through the transformation process. So let's start. The timestamp here is exactly 1:34 p.m. So let's start with speed 1. I am at speed 4 now. So when we say light and fluffy, we have 1:34 here. We'll give it to 1:38, 1:40. That will be 4 to 6 minutes, and it's running at speed 4. Okay, and I'll show you what that looks like. Right, so at speed 4, running for 2 minutes, this is what we're looking at. I know Lollipop is asking a question. Lollipop, I'll answer you in a moment. Just let me get through this first. Yeah, Lollipop is asking whether you have to scrape the bowl in for this mixer, because some of them really would require that. The simple answer is yes. But generally, even for mixers that do not require scraping, this one, if you don't, it will still work fine. But it's best practice, because you still want your mixture to be homogeneous, and you don't want like blotchy bits of butter or solid fat in your cake batter. I say that to say, yes, you would have to stop and scrape it during the creaming process, but not all mixers. This mixer is actually a good one. When I got it and I started the review I made for the original K mix I bought, I actually undertook a whole process where I didn't, like, I made red velvet and I didn't scrape, and it came out fine. The adjustment between the head and this the creaming beater is so good that it almost reaches down into the bowl. So there is like a solid process where it works well. Some mixers don't, because then you have a gap between the bowl and the creaming beater or whatever it needs beating, and it doesn't reach down into the bowl, which means you have to still stop and scrape it. But best practice, do scrape your bowl in, even if you have a good mixer. That's a tip there. But that aside, for the 2 minutes, this is what we have. Now, when I tell you, I think I've said it time and again on this channel, that light and fluffy exist on a spectrum. because at 2 minutes, this is what we have. Is it light? Yes, it looks it. Is it fluffy? Yes, it looks it. But it's not enough, because even with this look, it has spread, okay? It has spread. The margarine has spread. It seems to have some structure to it. Can you bake a cake from this? Surely you can, but it probably needs to go a bit more, because if it hasn't, what you might end up with is a dense looking cake. So you want to cream this another 2 minutes and then observe and see. But at this point, if you were here, what you were observing with me is that you still have the margarine and sugar mixture here little bit solid, that even if I'm shaking it, I have to literally force it before it falls off. So it needs to go a bit more, and then we'll come back and have a look at what is just about right before we exceed that. And this is speed number 4 for 2 minutes. That's what we have. So we are going to go again for another 2 minutes. Oh, Glenn, thank you. Let me just get this 2 minutes done and then I'll talk to you. So our timestamp is looking at 13:40. Let's give it another 2 minutes and then we'll come back and see. But yes, Lollipop, of course, I'm happy to do that. You want a mixer for your birthday, do you? What a good excuse for a good, well, you wouldn't go wrong for having that as a birthday present, okay? You wouldn't, okay? Carpenter, you are wild for speaking that nonsense. Yeah, you can do. Well, it is 42 now, and at this point I'll tell you, well, I'll show you the difference between what the consistency looks now and what it was like earlier. First of all, when you stir into the bowl, the mixture comes together easily. I think because we have a good weather day today, it seems like everything is working out right. So I think the result we probably will be deriving here is also relative to conditions that may affect things adversely, okay? So I think today the weather is on our side. But yeah, Glenn is a bread maker generally. and yeasted pastry, but it's delving into cake making. Glenn, what are the new thing? A baker is always a baker. Even though I like cakes, I know nothing about bread. I can hardly even make a pizza dough, but I love me some good bread. What are the new things you have found about cake making that is exciting for you? And what are some challenges you feel like, oh, you wish you knew this or could improve better? Tell us in the chat. Now, the second part of this is after another 2 minutes, here's where we are. You can tell that this, compared to the first time, the first 2 minutes when I scraped just enough on the bowl, I almost like had to shake it. This time, let's see. Just one shake and it's gone. Okay. Now, that is just relative. That is not set in anything. It's because I've been doing this for a long time. And sometimes when you've done things over and over and over, you can tell by just looking. So I guess experience lends here. But the difference is that it is a little more softer. The consistency flows a little more easily compared to when we had it at first. You can see the sugar crystals are disappearing or dissolving. Now, the creaming method will not completely dissolve the sugar, bear in mind. Other ingredients might help settle the sugar. For instance, when we introduce liquid into the batter, it will help moisturize and set the sugar so the sugar melts easily into the batter. But creaming alone will not make the sugar disappear, but it will go through a transition where you go from the bigger granules to a very fine looking consistency. But then again, I add here, the type of sugar you are using is important, because had I just employed the use of granulated sugar that has larger granules, we'll be looking at a little more coarse and even looking texture here compared to when you employ caster sugar. So that's something to kind of bear in mind over here. But light and fluffy at this stage, is it recommended? Yes. At this stage, it's probably recommended on observation that you can proceed to add in your eggs one at a time, and then your flour, and don't over mix your batter. But because we are here breaking the baking rules, we're going to leave this to run at high speed for another 5 minutes, just so that we can tell if it has finally kind of overmixed. Because overmixing it, what does it even look like? We don't know. I don't know if by mixing it for 5 minutes will completely render this base mixture here overmixed. But we'll try, because what we should be looking out for is a break in the mixture, because at this point the mixture has structure, which is why it looks firm and I almost have to force to slide it. But let's see if what it looks like if we purposely over cream this out. So I'm going to put that back on the mixer. And whilst we're at it, I think I was asking our new friend Glenn a question. Glenn is primarily a bread baker. Glenn, are you still with us in the chat? And I'm like, Glenn, what have you found interesting about baking cakes, and what are your challenges and things you want to improve on? I still cannot bake cakes, but I tell you, I still cannot make breads. But oh, when I've looked on YouTube and I've seen the little, what is it called? You know, the little pieces of bread that is made using the Korean method, where you almost cook the flour and then add it, and sometimes you have a very light fluffy dinner rolls. Yeah, right, that was the word I'm looking for. The dinner rolls, the soft, oh, when I see those soft dinner rolls being pulled apart on the internet, I'm like, oh, I want some warm bread. Okay, but a girl can dream. Now our time stamp here is 1:47. We're going to be doing this for 5 minutes. I'm going to set a time to it, and I am going to beat this at high speed. Remember, we only mix the first 2 batches by medium high, which is speed 3 to 4 on this mixer, but I'm going to push this a little bit and then go for the high speed of 6 here maximum. There's really no, yeah, number 6. Okay, that's been going from 47 to 150 now. So we've been doing, this has been going for 3 minutes at speed 6, which is high. I just stopped at maximum. I stopped short of maximum. But back in the chat, our friend Glenn is telling us about his baking experience and some new things he's learning. So thanks for sharing that. Yes, I don't imagine we do creaming in bread making, but yes, I kind of guessed the same principles of temperature and all the stuff that are required for baking are transferable when it comes to bread making as well. But yes, the creaming and reverse creaming, it's actually interesting when I think about the creaming and reverse creaming, because I wasn't so sure about reverse creaming, but having tried it, I think both have great advantages. It just depends on what is preferable for you. For instance, when I'm looking to build a layered cake and I want a very solid base, I definitely go for the reverse creaming because it allows a very more even and set structure for me. But I think in terms of the crumb yield, I think much of my own preferences inform the choices I make when it comes to baking. Okay, so if you don't know what reverse creaming is, just so that it's like I'm talking into space, I'm talking to Glenn, but right, reverse creaming. So the methods of deriving butter. Remember when we started this, I said creaming method. What we are trying here today by over creaming our butter and sugar is one method of deriving the butter. The other method is when it's the reverse creaming, where the fat is mixed into your flour. Now, I think, you know what, we can talk more about that when I get this done and then shove it in the oven. So Glenn, you've just landed on the right channel, because we could talk baking all day, okay? Except I don't think you have all day, do you? And yes, is it the tangjong? I don't like pronouncing things I am not sure about, okay? But I think I've heard that word tangjong enough to know that it's the boiling of the flour in water, so that it serves, I believe, correct me, but I believe it serves as a moisturizing agent and to absorb moisture or something in the process. Look, I learn random things here that have nothing to do with me, and I still cannot make bread. But let's come back to the over creaming of our batter here. Right, thank you, Glenn, you were so kind. Right, so that is gone for an extra 3 minutes, so we are running into the 7-minute mark. And you know what I haven't done? I've been a bit silly. I should have probably got myself a phone to take some photos of what the changes are looking like as they occur, but that is neither here nor there. I'm sure you guys who are here would see what I mean anyway. So now the mixture is getting lighter by weight. When I pick it, it's still the same, but when I'm stirring into it, the sort of friction and tension I have when you start, it's not the same. It's getting lighter, and even by running the spatula through, you almost feel an ease of move. Whereas the first time I almost had to apply pressure to scrape the bowl. The second time a bit more, less pressure, but this time it's almost like so easily it runs through. Now let's look at what it looks like over here. For the quantity, I didn't shake that much. I only just about moved, and then everything fell back in there, which means that it is kind of not holding on its own anymore. It is gradually, look at it, it's sliding over. It is losing structure, so it's not firm anymore. It is feeling a little bit sloppy, if you like. But will I call this over mixing? Not yet, because we want to push the envelope a little bit. So let's go another 3 minutes, and let's come back and have a look at it again, okay? And if you wonder why we are doing this, if you're just joining us and you wonder why we keep doing this, the whole point of baking is that if you want to get a good bake, have a right amount of air pockets to support a good structure to your cake crumb, you almost have to do this right. And the right way of doing this is ensuring that by observing, you still have a steady mixture of butter to sugar mix, with the sugar almost paling out into the consistency that looks off-white, not white. I think the off-white white sort of coloring is a little bit misleading. I'll tell you why. Because we added vanilla here, it has discolored our mixture. So are we going to be able to pale it out to get a very white consistency? Not exactly. And the base of the yellow stalk we used is so yellow that it is never going to yield very white results. I tell you how you can break it into white if you added oil, but we're not looking to kind of interfere with the process. So I think even whilst we're deriving this, I'm kind of thinking I'm going to have to kind of write this down properly and leave it as notes for you to check for yourself. So let's sit tight, that will come. But yes, let's go mix this for another 3 minutes, and then we'll come back and then we'll see. Yeah. This time I'll put a timer on it instead of just reading the time. Whilst you're at it, if you're just joining us, do consider liking the video, because we rely on your interaction with us over here to keep growing. Okay, let me just set a timer for 3 minutes behind me, and this is running for at number 6. I see you have a question for me, leave it in the chat. I will answer you when this contraction goes off. So leave your questions. Lisa, welcome. Great to have you. And yeah, all of you in the chat, if I'm not talking, I'm not ignoring you at all. This thing here is very noisy. Okay, can you hear me? Right. Those of you over there, look, I've got myself a new flask because I want to keep hydrated. Ever drink your water? Glenn, wow. Okay. Here's a tip. Glenn is just giving us a tip here. So, you know, me going on a tangent about light and fluffy and what you should be looking out for and all of that if you're a beginner. Here's a tip from Glenn. He says, if the mixture, after creaming, if you want to test for whether it is just done right enough for you to proceed, take a little bit, put it in cold water. If it floats, it's just about right. I guess at this point, I might want to try that. Let's see. I don't know. Shall we? You know what? We have overbeaten this, so I don't know how that will affect anything. But it's worth the try. You know me. I am always up for trying something. Let's see how cold water is. In that case, are we talking room temperature cold water or ice cold water? I guess it will be regular cold water, I imagine. I don't know. Right, let's see. I am always up for a tip, you know. I am always up for a tip. You know why? Oh, off the faucet. Yeah, I've just ran some cold water. But mind you, England is cold. So anyway, I'm always up for a tip because I find that if you're a beginner, sometimes things can be so complex. And I think even though baking is a science, much of your success will also be based on your visual cues and observation. So you should be able to see. So if you're a beginner and if I would recommend any channel for you to watch, go watch Claire Saffitz. You know what I cannot tell you? I haven't been to Harvard, okay? She has. And she breaks down the baking processes in such understandable, beginner-friendly forms. So go watch Claire Saffitz. Any video that Claire Saffitz is in her home kitchen at home, go watch it, okay? Also, Erin Jean McDowell. These are beginner-friendly, very, very experienced bakers who are not just bakers but are also good teachers. It's like every time I go to watch either of them, I'm like, my baking professor just is so cool. They make baking from a professorial level so cool. So that's a tip for you, Glenn. If you want to enhance your knowledge about baking, check out Claire Saffitz. So let's try. Okay, look at something. Yes. Let's see. Ah! It's floated. It has. Why am I excited? Look, why am I excited? Thank you, Glenn. Look, I am always up for a tip, especially not just for myself, but also for my beginner people. Look. I think we have to come back and try this again. I'm so excited. The little things excite me. Look, it is floating. Now, Gladys, don't put all the butter in the cold water. Let's try it again. It is floating. I thought it was the egg thing that I thought it was the egg that if it sinks or floats. What is that again? I'm confused now. Glenn, thank you. So, I mean, it's floating, so it's working. But have we overbeaten it? Let's have a look. Okay. I'm just going to take the rest and put it back in here. I'm not trying to lose my butter. Okay. Look. That is amazing. That's a tip. Okay. Amazing. Well, that is one tip that is, you know what? Thank you. I almost feel like I learn something new every day. I cannot tell you how, just because I have a channel and I have an idea about baking and I tend to talk about baking and the baking processes and stuff, doesn't mean I know anything. You'd be surprised the things I have no clue what I'm doing, okay? But of course, after 10 years, you think, okay, I've done this enough, I can wing it. But you'll be surprised the things I learn every day. I had no idea about this thing, okay? I had no idea. And look, I've just learned something today. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay? I thought it was the eggs floating and that had, you know what? I'm gonna leave that alone. Okay? Gladys, can you test for your eggs? Okay, let's just get to doing the proper things here. Okay? Whew. Lollipop, I don't know what is neutrally buoyant. Okay. All right. Lollipop is now the mad scientist talking neutrally buoyant. Okay. All right. We've been creaming this for 10 minutes, and as you can see, it is getting hard. It is getting hard to kind of like, it's getting hard to almost, it's, when we started the first 2 minutes, I could scoop a little more from that, and then the second 2 minutes, it was a little less. We came back, exceeded the creaming time. Now, look. It's falling over. Is that over creaming? I don't know. We are 10 minutes in and we are here. So I don't know. It's still, I think I have had my margarine and sugar at this mixture and still yielded myself some good cake. So I really don't know if this is over mixing. But in terms of time, we have exceeded what the recommendation is. I mean, it's still floating, okay? I don't know if that's a determining factor for anything. Because of course, if you cream it just enough, it should be able to float. But I guess, is that a determining factor for whether the sugar has creamed or overcreamed? I don't think so. So anyway, we're gonna go for another 2 minutes and I will leave it as that. Okay? So, oh, look at me. Now I don't know how to put my mixer back on. Okay, so floating eggs are the bad eggs, right? But floating creamed butter is not bad. Okay, I'll remember that. Oh, once it's cloudy, you've overdone it. Okay. Right. I think it's fair to say at this point, whether we know we have overcreamed or not, even if we disregard the visual cues, which may not be significantly different from what we have observed in the previous 2 sessions, not the very first 2, but the previous 2 sessions, it's important to note here that we have already been doing this for nearly 13 minutes, 4 minutes of which were creamed between speed 3 to 4, which is the recommended medium-high speed. But after that, we've been creaming this for a solid 9 minutes at 3 3-minute intervals, running at maximum speed number 6, which is maximum, 1 short of max over here. So for that reason, creaming our butter and sugar on a regular 19-degree day over 13 minutes is way more than the recommended time that is needed to cream butter or solid fat and sugar together to form the base of the cake. So for that reason, even if we disregarded the visual cues that we should be looking out for over creaming, I mean, the time alone and the speed time for mixing has told us that this butter at this point might just have been over creamed. So that is something to note. But let's jump into it, and then we're not creaming it anymore. We're just going to be transitioning into the next phase of the batter making. And I'm going to take this out, because 19 minutes is quite a lot. Okay, I can observe. I noticed something I just want to tell you about right now. At this point, right, the mixture, instead of holding firm, is looking a little bit dull. Okay, it is looking very dull. When I scrape through it, it's feeling a little lighter, and it can barely hold. Okay, let's see. See, it slides off. I haven't done anything. So it's losing its form, it's losing grip, it's losing structure. So it's a little more sloppy and very soft. I think on a warm weather day, this would have been a mess at this point. So are we beating it to a floppy state completely? No. But after creaming this for 30 minutes, 9 of which is on maximum high speed of 6 over here, I think it's fair to say, you know what, we have exceeded the recommended best tip or recommended best practice time for creaming the batter. So let's move on and add the eggs and see, because essentially we are testing to see how breaking baking rules will affect results. And we found out that even though we broke the do not overmix your batter sort of thing in the last video, we still had a cake. It was just a more dense cake, and the sort of results we achieved was a little more surprising, because I was expecting a tough looking cake, not a dense pound cake like crumb to the cake. So some of the results may be shocking, but it's still worth finding out what it looks like, because no baker wakes up and thinks, I'm gonna go and overcream my batter. Nobody does that, because you almost start or proceed with your best practice. So let's go add some egg yolks here and see what we find. This is sort of the method I use, if you like. And I think this is also inspired by our friend Asia Unknown over here. And that is because when we were talking about over mixing your batter, she thought we were talking solid fat butter. So she said, oh, I over mix my butter and I end up with a very light textured bake. And I was like, yeah, I actually have an idea about how that works. So here we are. Let's get the egg yolks in first. We have 5 egg yolks here. I'm just going to start with the first 2. I mean, I could pick the egg yolk. I just don't fancy having to wash my hand. That's all. Right, let me just cream this. Right, Lisa asking about the eggs. No, we are just eggs are fine. I paid the same price I would normally pay for eggs, and they're easily accessible. £10 for a pack of 18. Wow. Okay, what's happening here? I can feel my mixer. Okay, oh, okay, yeah. All right, there you go. And then we have the second egg. That's on medium high of 3.5 over here. So what I've done is I've added 3 egg yolks to the batter here. It's mixing at speed 3.5, and I'm going to mix the rest of the eggs and then add them in. Now let's look at the consistency of the batter again over here. We just added the egg yolks in here. This is about the most precious cake batter I have ever made, because normally by this time our batter should have been done, but look at us over here, right? We've added the egg yolks. I can't see any significant difference between when I've done the normal process and what I am trying to undertake here, but who knows? Let's wait and see. Right, there you go. I am just trying to scrape this all back in again. The eggs are all in now. I'm gonna let this cream again. For 2 minutes before we add the flour. Because besides the overcreaming the butter and sugar, everything else just follows the regular process of making the cake batter, okay? Okay. Right. So our eggs are mixed in, and now I'm going to add self-raising flour. The self-raising flour has a pinch of salt, and into that we will also be adding our buttermilk. I am adding the flour in 2 portions and just a portion for the buttermilk. The mixer has been turned down to fold function, just enough time for the flour to mix. Okay, we're not trying to overmix our butter this time. So I'm going to get this off the mixer now, and I'm going to hand mix this, and then we'll put this straight in our six-inch cake pans. Yeah. Okay, there we are. Our cake batter is now derived. This is the longest time I have spent making this cake batter, believe me. But that is because we're trying something different. In a way, I cannot, by observing and staring into it, I cannot tell any difference with the batter consistency at all. So yeah, I know those of you who feel like there are raw eggs in here, there are, okay? But I'm taking one for the team. So it's all mixed here now. Let's get our pot. Okay. Now, if you're very particular, you might want to measure this part, but I'm just going to eyeball it. 1. Remember, the only thing we did differently to deriving this cake batter is that we really did beat it out, exceeding the recommended best practice times. So we will see what that looks like. But it's all gone in now. Get a flat spatula. I'm just spreading the batter out. I think if I had a spoon. Okay. We're just using a spoon to flatten the top a little bit more. Okay, so this is what we have. I don't want to turn it a little too much because otherwise I will risk spilling the batter, but this is what we have in here. So we're going to put this in the oven. It's baking at 165 degrees C only because I'm not going to be putting water in the oven. This is going to bake by itself, dry bake, because sometimes when I put the water aerates, the forms vapor in the oven. I'm not going to do that because we just want to be able to reduce any influencing factors that might affect the results. So I'm going to do this on a dry bake and then we'll see. So it's going in the oven now. It's middle, this is a convection oven. Let me look at the temperature. Say hundreds. Okay. Okay. Yep. That's baking at about 160 degrees C. Let me get the oven from down here into there somewhere. Okay. We've got that in there whilst it's baking. So will we find the answer out? We don't know yet. We have to wait and see. But if you're just joining us, hello, welcome. I'm Gladys. I like cakes. I just told you a lie. I like cakes. No, I don't like cakes. I love cakes. Okay? I do actually love cakes. And today we're baking it. Why do I keep saying that? We're breaking a baking roll by overmixing our solid fat and sugar, which is the base of our creaming mixture, just to see how that will affect the results of our bake. So we've done that, gone through the entire process. The cake is now in the oven. I have some time. I can catch up in the chat. I know the chat has moved on so much without me, but if you're, you know what? I kind of feel like, okay, let me just be honest. I kind of feel like I have a little secret weapon here. Okay, I have a secret weapon here. And the secret weapon is that when you've done something so many times, and I've been doing this 10 years, there is something I know. So what we are testing for is not going to yield the absolute rubbish result I am aiming for, but at least it will inform me about something, because I have never creamed my butter and sugar for 30 minutes, Glenn. So I think you have so much confidence in me. Thank you. Okay. However, I think the honesty I am bringing here is that my experience counts, because I love baking, and when I'm baking, I am focused on the details of what I am observing. And because I've had to also come and teach the subject of baking, I will say researching the subject and also putting that into my everyday activity of baking. Look, my day is covered with baking. If I'm not baking, I'm scripting. Baking content, I'm deriving. Baking research results. So there is something I know about baking that will never kind of leave me. So I can never pretend that I am a complete novice. For instance, you know, when you risk overbeating your sugar and butter, a good tip is to start with the egg yolks instead of adding the eggs whole. And the tip is that the egg yolk, being an emulsifier, tends to bring the mixture back together. So you think the recommended best practice is for you to just cream everything enough so that there is appropriate amount of air. Overmixing is when you cream it to the point where you break it. But that is, it doesn't function on a linear scale, in that even when you've broken your butter and sugar mixture, which is the base activity, what you can do to save your batter from actually falling apart completely and creating a terrible result for your cake crumb is to start with your egg yolk. And the egg yolk, which has extra fats and emulsifiers, tends to kind of hold the batter back together. So the result will be you will evidently end up with a very, very light textured bake that is so moist, right? And then I'm also using buttermilk. Butter, if I was using milk, that would be a completely different result for me. So I say all of that to say, even though I wanted to overcream my mixture, the process is actually optimized for correcting those problems. So I agree with you, Glenn. We might not have a terrible cake, but who knows? I'm here for it. Oh, I'm here for it. So let's wait and see. Okay. Ardi, welcome back. Great to have you. Our cake is just gone in. We should have it done for 55 minutes to an hour 15 minutes. Could it be any longer? Perhaps. Normally when I've put the cake in the oven, what I do is that I put some water in the base of my oven to kind of like serve as moisture to hydrate the bake so that we have an even textured bake. But I don't want to influence it any further than my experience has already done for me. So it is in there. Let's wait and see what we will find over there. So yeah, Glenn, we might just not have a terrible cake, but you know what? I don't want to overemphasize that, because fun fact, I have never had to beat my butter and sugar for 13 minutes, 9 of which is at maximum speed. Never done that. So I really don't know, but hey, we are here. Oh, Ardi, you're welcome, darling. Lollipop, yeah, Lollipop, yeah, Lollipop is going for the school run. Lollipop, we'll see you on the next one, okay? We'll see you. But yeah, come back and catch up about what the results are when we finally get it done, okay? Yeah, but if you're just joining us, do consider liking the video, okay? Because you're welcome. I am here to entertain you. But yes, do like the video, because we count on that for engagement on YouTube. That matters. Look, I haven't had breakfast and I'm here talking about cakes like my life depends on it. I love cakes, okay? Now, well, Glenn, our new friend, is a baker himself. He bakes breads, but he's learning about cakes. Glenn, the request for cakes, is it from family, is it friends, or are you looking to set up as a business? We're curious about you. Look, people, if you're new here, join in the chat. You're welcome. That's the only way you make your voice heard, okay? So Glenn, tell us more about what you get up to and what has inspired. Of course, the request from people has led you to trying to explore about cakes, but we want to know about your journey a little bit more. How long have you been baking breads? What led you into the journey? Tell us some more about yourself over there. Caroline, hello there. Caroline, is it Caroline? Is it? I'm trying to remember where our friend Caroline is joining us from. It's either Michigan or Chicago. Is it the same place? That's how much I know about my geography, okay? But yeah, Caroline, darling, welcome to the chat. Great to have you. We've been doing quite a bit today, so yeah, and we have some new friends join us today as well. You know what? Let me... I should have set an alarm for my bake over there, but I think I can tell it. Right. There you go. Is it Ventus? Hello, Ventus. You're welcome. Yeah, I know some of our friends are just waking up. Our American friends, some coffee. Caroline having her coffee. Who is having coffee as well? Oh, it's Lisa. It's Lisa having her coffee. And Caroline. Prawn cocktail trying to tell me Michigan and Chicago are not the same. Honey. Look, I'm a cake maker, okay? I'm not a geography teacher. Fantastic. See, I thought there was something. There was a reason why I was like, is it Chicago or Michigan? Okay. Okay, Chicago, Michigan. Okay. Caroline is joining us from Chicago, and Michigan is the next state. Okay. Prawn cocktail out here trying to save Auntie. Oh, okay. Prawn. You're having a chocolate finger mousse. Girl, be kind. All right. Now, people, look at a few things I have picked for myself recently since you guys made me. Okay, well, I'm reintroducing myself again. If you are just joining us, I am Gladys. I love cake and I love tea. Okay, I always have a mug here for tea, right? And I'm not talking like other places have different things for tea. I'm talking British tea. You have the tea leaf, the tea bag, and a bit of milk. I like mine strong, hot, in a big cup. Don't give me, you know, people who make tea in these small cups. Like, why? Why are you giving me a small cup? Why? Okay? So I do not like small cups of tea. I like a big cup of tea. Okay? So I had this cup. I always have a designated cup for my tea. And I had this massive cup. Can you tell? They're big, right? And then on a live one of these days, I was trying to move things around. And then my cup went flying. Tapita, it was your fault. And then the handle broke. So I bought myself a new cup. And I bought myself a flask. And the flask is just for water. Because prawn cocktail, am I weird for not wanting to drink water from a mug? Doesn't feel right. It has to be either a glass or with a straw. I cannot drink water from a mug. It feels weird. I'm like, this is too thick for my mouth. But that is just me and my quirks. So I went to my local Aldi, I think. Yeah. I went shopping in Aldi, and this was on a discount sale. It's the ones that the special sale where when they're gone, okay, the one off sale. And then I got this one. It's really lovely. I like myself, I don't drink a lot, as in I don't like keeping hydrated, even though it's supposed to be good for me. But when there's a straw in the water, it feels different, so I like to drink. So this is hot water, by the way. It's a flask of hot water. I just boil a kettle of water. And I think it's a 1.25 liters, apparently. So yeah, that's my daily dose of water. And of course, my new cup. Those are included in my small little purchases. But outside of that, you will literally find me here most of the time talking cakes. What's yours? That's a bit about me. Let's get in the chat and let's hear about Chicago and Michigan. Cocktail, I don't think so. I don't think it's necessarily labeled a Stanley Cup, because I guess Stanley is a protected copyrighted name. It is not a Stanley. This is just an Aldi. It's labeled an Aldi accessory, but it is a solid flask though. This water I'm drinking has been in all morning. I think about 10, and it's nearly 2, and it's still warm. Because if you look under it, you can see the thermos flask bottom, and you can close it. Lisa, thank you. So I'm trying to keep hydrated, okay? So drink your water, people. Drink your water and mind your business, okay? I am minding a business that I enjoy, which is cake, okay? So drink water. Let's drink some water. But whilst we're at it, our cake is baking now. Let's go in the chat and see what we're missing. Oh, Caroline is having a hot chocolate. Caroline is not having coffee. I have a presumption about Americans loving coffee. I guess you were just having hot chocolate. Lovely, okay? Hot chocolate with a brownie would be good for the morning, but not great for your blood sugar, darling. But I hope the grandbabies are well, okay? For those of you joining us, hello again. And if you're watching this from replay, great to have you. We are testing a bake by breaking the baking rules. The cake is baking. We have 55 minutes to go, people. I cannot do this alone. So come on, let's get at it. And by the way, remember the scrap cake? Yeah, I have more scrap cake. I think what I'm going to do about the scrap cake is get myself a tray. Because Tabitha's mom requested a teacup cake, and we were going to make it. We will make it, but we have scrap cake, okay? This cake has been kept frozen for a very long time in my freezer. So I took it out, I let it defrost, and here we are. We have a 6-inch cake and a 5-inch. So Tabitha, we are, just so that this tutorial is easy to achieve, I've decided to scale it down to one big mug sitting on a saucer. So it's going to be a tea mug that is on a saucer. Okay, our friend Glenn is answering the question I asked about his journey, what his experience with baking has been. And Glenn is telling us he's been baking for the last 4 years roughly and has worked in bakeries for 2. Wow, that must have been a different experience. What is that like? The request from family and friends and colleagues and micro bakery. Oh, congratulations. Congratulations, we are here willing you on, okay? Your own micro bakery, amazing, okay? Get yourself some. Okay, now we are going to be up in your business because we want you to succeed, Glenn. Today Glenn is in the hot seat, okay? Glenn, you join us, you are family, and we invite you to the hot seat, and then we poke all the questions at you just so that we can help you get best results. Not that we have the answers, but we try, okay? Because we love you for being here and we want you to feel at home. That said, okay, so baking roughly for 4 years, in a bakery for 2. Have you left working in the bakery, or you're still in the bakery and you are looking to transition into your own thing? Where are you right now, and what's the plan for the transition? I know you being here and vocally discussing what your goals and dreams are part of the plan, but we want to get something solid. We want, where are you headed with this one? Talk to us, okay? What I'm looking for is my carving knife. I have a kitchen knife that I can't find. I can't find my carving knife. Okay. We'll say okay and leave it as that. Okay. What was my first bake, Glenn, you ask? I'll tell you in a moment. Bear with me. Oh, okay. Caroline is telling me about her hot chocolate, which is 100% cocoa beans, no sugar. Wow, that is super healthy. Enjoy, Caroline. Glenn is asking me what was my first bake. I'll tell you in a moment. RD loves tea. Okay, tea as in loose tea or English tea. Oh, especially, oh, masala chai. Okay, RD, am I assuming you're Indian? Is that a wrong assumption? Masala and mint tea. Mint tea is healthy and nice, okay? Mint tea for prawn cocktail with gunpowder. Cocktail. Why have you got to be so extra? In Great Britain, yes, St. Patrick's Day is acknowledged. It's not as a big deal as the Irish, but because we are friends and neighbors with the Irish, it is actually an acknowledged day, I believe. That's why our Princess of Wales was up and about. Was it yesterday or the day before? Something, but I think Ireland actually gets the best fun out of St. Patrick's Day. But it is acknowledged here. Oh, okay. Ardi, a Guyanese Indian from the Caribbean. Oh, okay. Some good food on the table, huh? Right. Let me answer Glenn's question. Glenn was asking me what was my first bake. Actually, my first bake technically is what has inspired my journey to be a baker now. My first bake was actually a cake. I used to work in healthcare, and I was working with a client who loved to cook and bake, and occasionally we would. I think it was primarily cooking, but we eventually transitioned into baking. We didn't have all the equipment I of course have today, but at the time we would sort of use oil instead of solid fat, and where we got the solid fat, we'll melt it into oil, and it was more like we were experimenting. And then the fun of it just got me hooked, and I got curious, and eventually, even after I transitioned, here we are. So I would say my very first bake would be a cake, but that was in a non-business or what I'm doing now. That was in a different world where I was just doing it as part of a work activity with someone who just enjoyed it, and then we were using baking as an activity. But that is what sparked my curiosity. But obviously, being an African girl who has always been confident in the kitchen, I guess I've tried my way in and out in the kitchen now and again. But yes, to answer the question, my very first bake that I would say meant something would be the cake I baked. It was a simple vanilla cake, and yeah, after that bake, here we are. Oh, okay. Lisa is a couple of 100 feet off Kingston. Okay. Oh my God, you guys are kind of like getting on and catching up in the chat. I am happy for you guys and the friendships you are making in there. Okay, so what I am going to do is I'm going to level this cake. I'm going to level this cake whilst we're at it. It's been in the freezer for a long time. I'm going to carve it, so I am not going to be too particular about it. It's a lemon cake, and it's still, I can still smell the lemon. I'm going to fill it up. When you are going to carve a cake, sometimes I just need some warm water. Okay, let's see. Okay. Oh God. Okay. 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 Right. And I'm going to flip that over. Look at you guys making arrangements. Right. What am I doing here? I am just trying to fill a cake ready for carving later. Okay? Right. We're carving this into a mug. So this cake you see here is going to become a mug. Believe me when I say it will look like a mug. It doesn't look like it now, but that's the magic of cake decorating. You pick up something that doesn't look likely to be anything, and then boom, it becomes something. Okay, I am just excited to kind of get through it. So this is 2 lemon cake and a red velvet, but these are my scrap cakes. So I'm probably going to do better by keeping it on the side, and then this will be chilled. So perhaps after we've done this, when we come back tomorrow, we'll be starting our mug cake. And if you have any ideas for any hyper realistic cakes you want to see, there's a cake trend developing that I want to try. If you've been here on this channel, you would notice that I have not undertaken a trend, because I'm like, trends come and go. Let's just stick with the right thing. And but yeah, I really want to get into it, you know. That's beside the point. Okay, Artie is going to go make breakfast. Okay, no problem. Go make breakfast. We're still here. We are still here. My kitchen just smells so yum. I like the smell of baked cakes. Okay? People, whilst you are making all your plans, let's see. Oh, Audi, great to have you. You have a good time too, and yeah, we'll see you soon. Okay. Tapita, you'll be an empty nester by your 40s. Really? Are you that concerned about that? Oh, Tapita. RD, people, we are over here chatting and RD has just left. Let's say goodbye to RD. I'm sure they're gone, but it's okay. Right. I'm just catching up in the chat a little bit. Look at you guys. Tea time with Gladys. Look, today is class with Gladys. It's just that the class is paused for a quick break. So, yeah, tea time with Glad. Anyway, I'm not drinking tea. It's just drink my water. Look at you guys making all the plans over there. Okay, Glenn. Oh, Glenn is a legal professional by trade. Oh, okay. Get in there, sir. Should I be out here causing trouble in the streets and hoping that you will come and save me? Okay, Glenn is a legal professional by trade, and he's worked in bakeries typically in the late hours during the week and weekends throughout the year. Oh, okay. Wow. Well, congratulations. You see, human beings, we are so multifaceted. Most of the time, I am fascinated by the people behind baking businesses. And I'm not talking conglomerates and big companies. I'm talking like small niche bakers. I'm always surprised. There used to be a baker on Instagram. I'm not on Instagram anymore. And can you imagine? She used to be a pilot. She and her husband. Hello. Look, I have a friendly neighbor who I love, who stops by to say hello to me. So let me go say hello to them whilst you say hello to each other. Oh, there, darling. How are you? Hello. It's been a while. I haven't stopped to talk to you properly. How are you? Oh, did you enjoy school today? It's lovely to see you. Look, we are baking. Today, the cookies are not done yet, but I hope I'll bring you some cakes soon. Okay? Yeah, I will. I will. Yeah. Oh, look at him. He knows I come with the goodies, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, I will come. And I know you're going to feed me pizza. Okay? Come on, chop, chop. Keep going. See you later. Look at me having a chat with my neighbor. Okay. Yeah, Carol. Yeah, I know Carolyn has got 3 grandbabies, isn't it? Okay, so let me just take this again. This is Glenn. I plan to use the experience to start my own within the next year, as time is very limited. Whew, Glenn, congratulations. It is almost always exciting when you want to pursue the thing that you want to do, isn't it? But boy, after having a full day of work and then going to put time into the other thing that you hope would grow, I am wishing you all the luck there is and success. What have you found challenging in trying to kind of set this up, as in the whole idea? Is it time management? Is it focus? Because I used to have a full-time job before doing this. And Lord, of course, that may not be the same for you. It will take discipline. It will take, and I think it helps if you're passionate about what you want to pursue. But what have you found challenging so far? Oh, Coops Woodworks. Coops Woodworks. Hello, where have you been, our friend? Welcome back. It's been a long time. Last time you were here, we were nearly done, so we couldn't catch up properly. Great to have you back. Where have you been? Lisa. Wow. Cocktail. Let's see where the email is. Cocktail been out here emailing me. Cocktail, can I just catch some peace? Let's see. Cocktail, are you now? Let me see. Yep, gotcha. Yep, Cocktail. Cocktail, I got you. Oh, well, Coops Woodwork says, yes, he knows it's been a while, but he's been trying to hang on to the reality over here in the US. Oh, my people. You know what? You people in the US bring me so much joy when I think of you and your big houses and your big roads, but that's just belligerent, okay? And then there's Agent Orange. I know nothing about your politics, but what is that reality like for you, Coops? Okay? I hope you find some peace over here for a minute before you can go back to that reality, whatever it looks like. Right, this is Carol. You have a good taste of your bacon. Look at you people. Time management, business planning strategy are the next set of I think if you conquer the time management, the rest will be okay, because I think someone lied to us about transitioning from a full-time job or like a traditional career to pursuing something else. Somebody lied about that transition and how, because when you go and you put all your energy, and it doesn't necessarily mean what you do at the moment you hate it. Sometimes you can, we all have different skill sets, and we are multi-skilled, and you can be passionate about two different things. But after you've gone to work and diligently paid your dues at work, the time to kind of sit and do that thing over here. Me, after 8 p.m., I just want to sleep. Except Twitter will not let me have peace. Twitter is the demon in my life, okay? All my time that I can't see where all my time went, it went on Twitter, okay? So time management can definitely be a challenge, but it's doable. Oh, Coops, I'm sending you hugs. I know what it feels like to be us, okay? Us over here. I know. There is an unspoken experience that others may never know. But as long as we find community here and we stay positive, you know what? To live is suffering. Is that me? To live. You know, this whole thing, life is a struggle. It could be made easier if we had other things in our favor, okay? But if it's not one thing here, it's another thing there. So let's find peace in community, have perspective, be grateful for the things that we already have, and hope for the best for the things we don't have. How is that for a life hack? How is that? Oh dear. You are so welcome, Glenn. Look at you guys. The chat is kind of moving, but that's, you know the rule they say, when your cake is baking, don't open the oven. I get impatient, and some days I want to open the oven, okay? So let me stop myself from doing that. But yeah, actually, I'll tell you, being on the channel sometimes also gives me a break from my own reality, because to live is suffering. Let's go and find Apostle Paul. Everybody needs an apostle in their life, isn't it? Okay? Because this life is just like hard sometimes. You're like, you suffer, then you die. Okay, let's not get dreary. We still have the cake baking. We still have the cake baking, okay? Okay, let me go make myself a cup of tea whilst you guys are catching up. But otherwise, Coops, it's been a little while. How are you keeping though? I hope despite the struggles and challenges, you are okay. No. We are not opening the oven at all. We are not. We're going to give it up till the 40-minute mark, because the bake time is supposed to be 55 minutes to 1 hour and 15 minutes. It's likely to go and exceed that time, okay? But we are not trying to ruin the cake. We have already done the worst by obviously overbeating the sugar and butter. But like I said, overbeating the sugar and butter is not necessarily going to, I don't know what result we'll find, but we're here, we wait and see. But like I said, it's never going to be like the complete beginner who has stumbled into overmixing their sugar and margarine together and then have had absolutely rubbish results, is it? It's never going to feel like that, because it's different. I like the fact that the community actually enjoys each other. Like, you guys just go on and you have all the fun in there, and you kind of chat amongst each other, and then you leave me out here in my cold kitchen by myself. Well, No, I'm not complaining. It's just nice to see. Now, Cocktail. Is Cocktail still here with us? Cocktail. Which baking tools do I consider absolutely necessary for the baking of cakes? Well, first of all, if I assume that you are taking this seriously. So, an absolute necessity, stand mixer. Pick one up, okay? Even if it's an affordable one. The hand mixer can only get you to a very large, somewhere here, and then it will stop. Plus, if you know me, I am here for convenience. I don't care. Like, I love the convenience that a stand mixer will get me. So definitely invest in a stand mixer. I know you have the KitchenAids and other different brands in America. Look, make the investment, thank me later. That is an absolute. And that is because you are looking to make like progress quickly, right? And for where you are, I don't see you kind of regressing back. So if I was talking to somebody who is like, I want to start baking, I'm like, okay, go get yourself a stand mixer. Bake about, try a month of baking cakes at least twice a week and come back and let's talk, okay? But you are already in it, you know, and I trust that you are actually pursuing this. So go get yourself a stand mixer. Next to a stand mixer, you have a turntable for decorating. A turntable. Look, I talk about a turntable, and I have, if you've seen any of my tutorials, which the long form videos, you'll see I have the solid metal turntable. It's convenient to get one. If you don't have that, you can pick the Wilton plastic one. It works. People will have you believe, oh, the plastic one is flimsy. The one I was trying to lift, it's just stuck in it. There's a couple of things here. I bought mine £10, which will, at the time, about $12 in my local supermarket, Sainsbury's. It's a branded supermarket here. Bought it for the equivalent of about $12. That lasts 8 years, and I've used it again, and in fact, if you watch the live videos, that is the turntable I use. So a turntable of any kind. I don't tend to like the Lazy Susans because they are the movement of a Lazy Susan is a little bit slow, and I don't like it, but that's set in preference. So people will either recommend that or a Lazy Susan. Just go for a turntable, a professional cake turntable. So a must is a mixer, a turntable. Get yourself a selection of spatulas. We're talking the mixing spatulas, these ones. When you buy a stand mixer, you will have a flimsy spatula come with it. This is one of my old ones. Doesn't do anything. Get on Amazon or any outlets that has a selection. Don't bother yourself trying to buy the one that comes in a set of 3, because the set of 3 has various sizes, and sometimes the 2 other sizes may not apply to you. So just get yourself some really, look, if I had an outlet or I had to put my name to a brand item, it would be an extra long spatula, because it's annoying, because the length of these ones are very short, and when you're staring into a bigger bowl, as in the Kenwood XL, which is a 6.8 liter bowl, it's kind of hard to get in. So get yourself a selection of spatulas. Get the silicone ones that can almost scrape the size of the bowl properly. So we're talking mixers, a stand, a cake turntable, a set of spatulas. Get yourself and a selection of offset spatulas. So you have the silicone plastic spatulas, and then you have offset spatulas. Get yourself some offset spatulas. And then one critical thing, cake scraper. What does a cake scraper look like? I mean, this is a dough cutter. This is a dough cutter I have here. But if you've checked my videos out, you would have seen cake scraper. I think that is where I will stop. Plus, you will need some whisk just for mixing. Pick yourself a set of mixing bowls as well. These are, I'm focused on the elements for cakes alone. So the mixing bowl, the spatulas, the whisk are just for cake making, and you would know that. The turntable is more for decorating. So in terms of decoration, I think what I've just listed will see you from bake the cake to decorate the cake by putting it together, if you're looking for, say, a rustic to semi naked cake. That said, another thing, get yourself a cake leveler. Don't worry about getting some of them professional ones that end up cutting the cake. Look, the one I just took out to cut this cake into two is one I picked up from Amazon for £10. It has saved me a lifetime. It is what I've used for all my professional looking cakes. I say there are times in your life where you would have to make the investment worth it. But if you have to prioritize, sometimes just prioritize the item to do the job and then learn how skilled you can use the item. So it's not about buying, like, the most expensive gadget obviously I recommended is the stand mixer, and for good reason. But otherwise, most of these things are very affordable. You should be able to pick those up. So get yourself a cake leveler. Okay, so the spatulas, the plastic and offset spatulas, plus a cake leveler, set of mixing bowls, a mixer, and all the things I've already mentioned will see you from going from just baking. It will help you put a cake together. It will help you level the cake, fill it with buttercream, leave it with a rustic decoration. Now, if you want to advance from that to polished looking cakes, that all depends on what your technique is. Take it from me, do not run out to buy everything that is recommended. Find your decorative preferences first. Do you want to make fondant cakes, or you want to make buttercream cakes with piped details? If that's the case, then the advanced techniques you would need to add decorative details will include piping flowers. So you will have to get the piping nozzles. But even as a beginner, getting a piping nozzle, a couple of them, maybe about 3, and some piping bags are basics for covering cakes. So those are like the basic things, because you will have to nail down the basics of the cake making process, as in the cake decorating process, which is learning how a cake is structured. Okay, so do that, and you know what, you'll find whether you're decorating a cake in a rustic style or you are advancing to perfectly polished looking cakes, you still have to master the basics of cake decorating, which is the structure of the cake. So all the tools I have recommended should support that effort for you, but without just being so salesy. I think at the start of my YouTube career, I made a video covering all the basics tools that a beginner would need. That is not to say you're a beginner. That is to say I have already put all of that information in a video form, long form, so you can check that out. But yes, that is just about what you may need. If I think about anything, perhaps it will be too late to tell you, but I'm sure if you if you checked on YouTube, there will be so many recommendations. But yes, what I have recommended should see you from bake to actually put in the cake together. Very simplistic, not much to do. Okay. Oh, Coops is back to work. Okay, darling. Did we make it on the news? Who made it on it? It's been a sunny week. Oh, yeah. Right, you guys are talking about the weather. I think we've made it to nearly the 40 mark. So let's see. Okay. People. People, I am surprised. Because it seems like our cake looks okay. Glenn, where are you? Glenn, come and answer for yourself. Because it seems like our cake looks okay in there. It went in at 35. And this is what we have. I don't know if it's finished baking yet. I'm going to have to put a skewer in. But look. It's like, so over creaming your butter and sugar, isn't it? Okay, let me not jinx this. Okay, let's see. It's come out clean. Am I going to go on record and say out loud that overcreaming your batter doesn't have adverse effects on the cake? Glenn? Glenn the prophet. Okay, people. I was honestly, a little part of me is slightly disappointed because I wanted to see some really drastic results, okay, so that we would see. And clearly not. We have a cake that is cooked to the middle, it's level. Okay, we haven't seen the inside, so let's not be so sure. Oh, wow. Thank you, Edible. 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 Only if you knew what we what we were aiming for. We literally came and we wanted to break some baking rules. And I kind of feel like it did nothing. Right, okay, let's, you know what, Glenn, you have too much faith in me. I was looking for a different result. I wanted some really terrible results. That looks like a regular cake, isn't it, people? Okay, so it's either what we attempted to do just didn't work or we did it wrong. Because if you're wondering what we were attempting to do, we were trying to break some baking rules by over creaming our sugar and butter. Big producer. Big producer.
Yeah.
It's 3:20.
I know. And I said, and I promised I'd go, we'd go golf course and walk halfway.
So park the car.
I'm parking at the golf course and walking, yeah, don't worry.
Alright, sorry people.
I can still make it.
Sorry people, you're in my home kitchen.
They don't come out till 35, so I'll be right there.
Okay. No. Look, I kind of feel like, sorry about the interruption. I was discussing my
school run.
my school run plans, okay? So after all that effort, am I going to go on record to say, oh, people, overbeat your batter? I'm not sure I want to carry that risk, okay? I don't want to be that person, but you know what? This cake looks better than the cakes I have made. Okay, what do you think? Okay, so you know what? Yeah, big producer. Big producer is gone and small producer is still in school. Okay, so you know what? I am going to cut this whilst it's warm. That's the whole point of this experiment, because apparently it's the crumb. So never mind how the cake looks. Consider what the crumb looks like on the inside. So you know what? We're going to cut it and then we'll see. So let me get some greaseproof paper. Yeah, Glenn, I don't think there will be a next time, because I kind of knew what I was doing. But I just, because I had never beaten my batter for 13 minutes, I thought, you know what, it might just affect things adversely. But I guess my process of the batter making is optimized for my best results. So I kind of knew that. So perhaps I should have changed the technique. Let's see. We're going to check the crumb. It's been baking for 46 minutes. Right. The crumb is really, really light and delicate. So if I pick it up, it's going to fall apart. So I'm just going to slide the plate through. Oh, wow. Okay. Just so that we have a fair assessment. It is really light and tender. We nearly risked some tunneling, as you can see. But otherwise, it's a solid structure. I am kind of surprised. Really, really surprised. All honesty, I am surprised. Because I expected a different set of results. Because you're normally told not to overbeat your butter and sugar. And then we went and we did exactly the opposite. And this is what we have. I will have to beat I'll have to beat the cake batter. You know what? I did beat the cake batter. That we overmixed the batter. That was in a previous video. And we mixed it for 4 minutes. That is when we added the flour. And it didn't come out. I thought we were going to yield a very bread-like cake. And we didn't. Actually, we ended up with a cake that was dense, as in think about pound cake type dense, where you don't measure the ingredients and everything is just added up. So it was crusty on the outside, a little soft on the inside, but I was expecting a bread-like consistency. But the reason why that result came was because I'll tell you why. Fat interferes with the protein strands. So with the amount of relative fat you have with the flour, especially in the UK self-raising flour where you already have the leavening added to the flour, you are never going to yield a bread-like type of cake. The reason being, protein strands get tighter when water or liquid is introduced, right? And bread has less fat in it. So you end up with a very chewy consistency to that. Never mind the fact that it's a different process. But the point here is that sometimes when we are told overbeating, you kind of imagine overbeating it is going to yield the worst form of the result for you. And it's not at all. Now, do I recommend overbeating, mixing your batter? No. But what I found in that experiment is that if you say you were supposed to mix your batter for 40 seconds and then you went up to 50 or a minute, it won't make such a great difference. But other influencing factors depends on what you have in the recipe. So if you have fat, and the fat is relative to all the other ingredients. If you're using plain flour, because when you use plain flour and then add your own leavening to it, that will also affect your results adversely. So I guess the best practice recommendation is set in context, I guess, and that's what we just found. Now, will I say go and overmix your margarine and sugar? No. The best practice is to just make sure you trap the right amount of air. The only reason we have yielded a set of different results that are better here is because I had my process. And remember, I just wanted to keep all the variables the same, so I didn't want to change the technique. So this recipe is my own recipe that I develop, and I adapt it all the time. You can swap the ingredients around, and I optimized it for correcting some issues. So I wanted to enhance crumb quality. I wanted a light textured crumb, and I tested it so many times to know what to do with it. So I guess my technique sort of offsets some of the problems that may arise from overcreaming, and that is why we are here. But best practice, should you overcream your batter? No, don't do that. Okay? Here's the second one. No, we didn't beat the sugar and butter for 30 minutes. We beat it for exactly 13. It's 1-3. The first 4 minutes were at 2-minute intervals at medium high speed, and the rest of the 9 minutes were at speed number 6, only a speed short of maximum. Okay, so that's 13 minutes. That the recommended time for this recipe is 4 to 6 minutes, and I doubled that time. So I doubled the time plus the speed, because normally I cream at speed 3 to 4, which is medium high, and this time I moved it all the way to high speed short of max for 13 minutes. 1-3. So to answer the simple question, does overmixing have adverse results on your cake? It depends. But you know what, I am not going to kind of set myself up for a fall. Clearly, on first observation, we realized that, okay, the cake is still caking and nothing has happened here, which is also a surprise element. But we're going to let the crumbs settle first, and then we'll come back and have a look at the crumb, right? Because a fresh crumb is always going to be very different from a set crumb. And perhaps it would be safe to leave this, wrap it, keep it on the side like I normally would for all my cakes. And then perhaps in the morning, before we start on our mug cake, we can talk through the results of this crumb before we proceed. That should give us some more insight. But otherwise, on first experience, on observation, it's okay, Glenn. It's okay. I think because of my accent, 13 and 30 almost sounds the same if you're not paying attention. So it's not on you at all. That said, on observation, that's the cake done. I'm not even like, this is still the crumb of cake I would normally yield when I bake. So I am pleasantly surprised. But I guess a few different things influences the results here for us, because the technique used sort of solves some of the problems that results from over creaming, you know. So should you go and over cream your butter, your solid fat and sugar? You'll probably be smart not to. But if you do exceed the recommended time, will it affect results? I think it will have to take a lot for those results, because I think based on some of the research information, the overbeating means that sometimes you have strands of formation in here, like little bits of things that are overspread into the cake. And I don't think we have that. We have such a perfectly settled cake. It's just the middle that probably should have cooked a bit more. Maybe because there was the possibility of tunneling. But it's such a settled crumb. I'm just shocked. I'm like, okay, so this is what it looks like. Plus, did you notice it baked even? Surprise. Because you would think that of doing overbeating it is adding more air bubbles and it will irritate the crumb and then you'll have more holes in it. But otherwise, look, it baked flat. I am quite surprised. Right, so what I am going to do is, before I leave this to set, I'm going to chop into a little bit. Nothing new here. Same cake crumb I make all the time. Nothing new to see here. Completely surprised. Not at all. Cinnamon. Cinnamon. Great to have you. You know what? It's not tough. It's very light texture. It's, if I didn't know better, I would say, oh, this tastes better. It's almost the same cake I yield all the time. So maybe next time I have to beat it for 2 days like Glenn said. For my blood sugar, I probably have to stop eating this cake. But look at the crumb. If you look at the crumb, we have a very set, nicely textured crumb. I'm not even mad about it. Anyway, I guess we've answered the simple question. I don't know what's happened here. People, for those of you who are suggesting we should go and melt the butter, that is adding a completely different variable. Because by melting the butter from solid to liquid, we are going to have to derive the air pockets by a different method, which changes the whole structure and process of the cake making process, right? That is not to say you cannot derive a cake, a good or well-tasting cake, from the oil. I mean, chiffon cakes, if I remember correctly, are dependent on whipping the eggs, which will then become the source of air pockets to leaven the cake, if it makes sense. So once we introduce the same liquid fat in any form, whether it's the butter that's melted, margarine melted, or we have changed a completely different variable to the whole process, and it would be just as good as just following that process then. I hope that kind of makes sense. So here's what I found. Does the result here answer the question that you could easily overmix your cake for great result? No, because a few variables affects our results here. I'll tell you why. The variable here is the technique, because remember, instead of putting the eggs in whole, I added the yolks first. There was a reason for that. The egg yolks have extra fat. They contain an ingredient called lecithin or lecithin? It confuses me, but it's an emulsifier, okay? And An emulsifier, in simplistic terms, is what I call the peacemaker. When your two siblings are not getting along, it's the peacemaker who's the glue and keeps things together. So because I added the egg yolks, if the part of the margarine and sugar that fell apart is to be brought back, the emulsification process by using egg yolks sort of does that for me. It kind of reforms the batter and resets the structure for me. So the technique for deriving the cake batter has added to the results we have here. And unless you understand the science of your process and the techniques you are employing for your cake batter, my recommendation will still be stick to best practice. Best practice meaning ensure your ingredients are still at room temperature. Make sure your batter fat is not overbeaten. Try not to overmix your batter when you derive it. And make sure you bake it at the recommended heat. All the good practices that the professionals will tell you, stick to them. Because whilst these are yielding us some really good results, even after we've broken the baking rules, they are only set in a certain context. In that, if we swap this around and then we introduced maybe plain flour or bread flour, and we reduce the amount of liquid and increase the amount of oil, we might derive different results. So baking is still set in specific contexts. And I think for generalization purposes, please do not overmix your butter or do not overcream your sugar and margarine. Okay, that's it. But that has been such an interesting result. Less expected. Lisa, you have so much trust in me, right? I am not I am not that, you know what? Perhaps I guess my 10 years of baking counts for something, okay? Because quite frankly, without tooting my own horn, I don't just bake because I want to bake. I bake because I'm curious about what I am trying to achieve, okay? So even as a cake maker or as a business, I don't make cakes for everybody. And I mean that, I mean well when I say that. I don't make cakes for everybody, as in there are people who love cake. Like, they don't, just because they love cake don't mean they eat cake all the time. But it's like the sort of food that they understand what goes into it and are happy when you serve them a cake. Those are the people I make cakes for, okay? So those people are represented in two different forms. People who want to use cake to express a language. For instance, I have a customer who contacted me recently, right? And their partner hasn't had a cake since they were a teenager. And this person is now in their mid-30s and they want a cake. Now that cannot be an ordinary cake. That has to be a cake where when they eat it, they know, oh my God, this is some good cake, right? So I obsess about the process of cake making. It's just something that brings me so much joy. Do you have to be that person? No, you don't have to be. I'm a little bit crazy. There you go. That's the truth. I'm just gonna wrap this up and just be quiet. Cinnamon. It's a calling, you know. It's a calling. Yep. I love cake. It's funny, but I don't eat a lot of cake, but I really, really love cake. The subject of cakes bring me joy. Like, my heart is excited when I think about cakes. Okay? So, I guess there's a method to the madness. But I tried to ruin the cake and it didn't work. So we're just going to just mind our own business. Caroline definitely needs a Ghanaian cuisine channel. Yes, Kwanchiwa's Kitchen. Cocktail. Kwanchua is spelled Kwan, Kwankyewaa. Kwanchua's Kitchen. Lisa, you're welcome. Look at this cake. I think thanks for eating this cake, my blood sugar levels have just shot up. I guess my morning's exercise will be worth something. So yeah, Kwanchua's Kitchen. It's Kwankyewaa. Right? One second. Cocktail. Yeah, cocktail. I've just sent it via email to you, so you can just copy and post it. Yeah. Yes, Lisa got it right. It's Kwanchua. So Kwanchua's Kitchen. So with an S and a kitchen. Lovely lady, good vibes. There are so many Ghanaian some good channels here that make Ghanaian foods. And Kwanchua is one of them. Once you start watching her, you will get a lot of recommendations for other channels. So yeah, but she's one of the ones I recommend the most because her vibes are so solid. Okay, but yeah, that aside, people, if you have any questions to ask me, we have 10 minutes max or less, and then I'll be gone. It's nearly 4 p.m. I've been here since 2. And can you believe, besides munching on the cakes that was supposed to be so wrong, I haven't had breakfast, people. I haven't eaten breakfast. Okay? I haven't. So I need to go and eat. Have I decided what we'll be making for this cake? Not yet, but in the week, we are going to be making our Tapetes tea cake. So no, I haven't decided yet, but if you have any ideas, what am I going to eat? Actually, I'll tell you. I have a breakfast frittata. An egg and sausage breakfast frittata. So I'm gonna have that with coleslaw and just a slice of bread. But the frittata has lots of eggs, so eggs and spinach and peas in it. So it's protein heavy, if you like. So that's as soon as I sign off, even before I do the washing up, I'm gonna sit down, have something to eat. But keeping hydrated has helped me. Plus, I am trying to optimize my morning for healthier results. So my mornings include long countryside walk. Like I literally dedicate an hour to the walk, but I don't walk for the entire hour. I also stop for a minute, and yeah. So my mornings are now better because prior to, I think when I used to complain about my focus and attention, my mornings are so like fast paced, and I'm probably anxious about something, and I end up just scrolling and I can't focus. Whereas since incorporating the morning walks, it's tiresome because I'd rather be sitting there doing research, but I also find that when I feel better, my results for educating gets better, at least for me. So it's neither here nor there. So yeah, So I'm having a frittata with just a slice of bread, butter, and a cup of tea. Once I get that done, I'll tidy up and then get back to finishing an edit, setting the evening routine, and then later tonight, about 9 p.m. if I have time, it's back to research material and stuff, and then back to here tomorrow. My life is just cakes. I live for cakes, people. I live for cakes. But that aside, you're not. Who is serving Corkytail a frog? Corkytail is a pet lover, okay? If you eat a frog, she and you will not be riding out to the sunset. I'm kidding, okay? She's like, I'm not one of those people. I had a Thai squash curry, and I regret it. It's already so warm. Look, you're gonna be all right, Corkytail. People, you know what? Have we answered the simple question about oh, here's the other one. Have we answered the simple question about over creaming our cake batter? Yes. Is it bad for business? Not on this occasion. That's the best answer. Not on this occasion. Should you go and over cream your batter? Not exactly. So people, let's come back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. when we will be doing some decorating of our cake mug. For our new friends, if you're just joining us, all of you in the chat, there is 19 of you right now, okay, who has not liked the video yet. If you have not liked the video, come on, do it now before we sign off. Do it now, because by so doing, you are communicating to YouTube that you had some fun with us. There's 19 of you, and there have been some who have been and gone. So a polite reminder to like the video. And if it's your first time joining us, do come back. We are a happy bunch. We had some new friends join us and some old ones who stopped by to say hello and go. There is Glenn, our new friend, who is hoping to establish a home bakery or a micro bakery and grow it as a business whilst also pursuing his other professional life. So if you see Glenn on the streets over here, say hello to Glenn. Glenn, you're welcome. I hope we've been able to serve you today and make you feel at home, okay? For the rest of you who are still with us, your Lisas, your Cinnamons, your Carolines, your Corkytail, I'm not talking about you. Tapita, Lollipop, everyone, RD. Some days I sit there and I think, if I met you people, what would that be like? But the goal is to grow the channel, okay? The goal here is to grow the channel so that when we have the means, we can transition this into a roadshow, okay? We'll do the baking sessions live. I will travel to you, we'll hang out, then we'll learn to bake, okay? This is my mission. I love cakes and I want you to have a great experience with baking. If you don't want to run a business, that's okay. You don't have to, okay? But there is something lovely. There is a feeling you get if you can just get into the kitchen, put ingredients that don't look like they're going to do anything magical, but you're able to put them together in a way that creates magic. When you watch people eat the food you have cooked and served to them, it's amazing, right? So how about make that into a dessert, bake a cake, okay? You don't have to make the fancy cakes that I devilishly sit here and make. That's just crazy stuff. Don't do that, okay? But just being able to put a cake together like this, even when you're trying to ruin it and it's not working. Hello, bane of my life. But that said, people, always a pleasure to hang out with you. Always, always, always a pleasure. Where is my one like? Okay, all of you, okay, right. Tabitha, I'm going to make a complaint today about this man and his business. Who is this man? Corkytail, who? Who is upsetting you? Oh, okay. I thought somebody was in the chat trying to upset Corkytail. I'm like, who is this man who has just come into the street? Okay, she's like, oh, I'm gonna make a. Who said he'll give me a store credit? And I'm like, okay. Oh, okay, okay. Vera, peppers and chilies in your milkshake? Was that McKiddie's by any chance? Okay, let's not slander McDonald's. Okay? Don't encourage her, okay? Cinnamon, don't encourage. Okay, people, I wouldn't do that. Oh, yeah. Son. Okay, Cocktail, you and Frank better. Now I see. Anytime a Frank comes at you, it won't be a thing. But otherwise, people, we've got to go now. It's almost 4 p.m. I've been here. Sandra's brother. I've been here, if you notice. I've been here since 5, I think 5 to 1. I was here today. We signed in early and we achieved some great results. Love you to the moon and back. Thank you for all the love and support. For all you new people, subscribe to the channel. Come back. Let's have a laugh. Let's get some great results with baking. Let's learn to bake. But more than anything, let's stay connected and respectful. Say goodbye to your mate over there in the chat, and I'll see you in the next one.